I spoke to Naomi Channell in late 2023 regarding the Jodi Jones and Luke Mitchell case that she covered in depth on our podcast, A Real. However, before I was able to release this episode, some new information came to light. This new information has come from the fact that the trial transcripts have now been obtained and are now being compared to previously released information and are showing some inconsistencies. While we don't go into these details, you can find out more from lmtranscriptdiscussion.blogspot.com, which you'll also find in the show notes. Here's the brief discussion I had with Naomi following the new information coming out.
So when I went to do the podcast, I did say, has anyone got any transcripts? And everyone was really like, no, we haven't got any. Like, the court never released them. You can usually do a freedom of information request. And I noticed that you can see a log as well of everything that's been requested, even if it's denied. So online, you might have seen things before. And I noticed that people had I didn't recognise any of the names, but people had tried to get hold of the court transcripts, which I thought might be journalists. It might just be interested people. It might even be Jodi's family. But then got hold of quite a few of these transcripts, and she's been going through them. And whilst I would say I haven't had a chance to sit and go through all of them as yet, but there are some questions. I look back at what I put on the podcast, and I would say that 99% of it is still accurate, but there are a few things that I think have not necessarily been disproven, but the whole picture wasn't given in context. So some things look a little bit different, but I need to kind of sit down and look through it all. And has done this blog, which I'm sure you've seen. I think I sent you the link.
Yes, you did. I've gone
through which has so you probably know more than me at this stage, because I'm actually doing, as well as my weekly podcast, I've got 2 big deep dives on the go as well. One's coming out at the end of March, which has been a case that, I mean, if you think Luke Mitchell and Jodi Jones is complex, this one will just blow your head off. But I think it's just, I need to, when I look at that, I really need to pay a lot of real attention to that. And also, Luke's parole hearing is in April. So I didn't want to do an update episode or anything on my podcast until I sort of could do it all in one go. And potentially, maybe I'll speak to Luke again, I'm not sure, but whatever happens, I mean, what's really happened is that the camp has sort of completely divided. And actually, what's interesting is that no one is saying, well, that I've seen, no one's gone from saying Luke's innocent to Luke's guilty. What they're doing is they're kind of questioning the group that they were in, and they're questioning how much context they had for every piece of information. Now, there was a claim, and I still don't know how factual this is, so this is kind of just there, but there was a claim that Sandra and Scott knew about the whistleblower way before they talked about it. Now, potentially, there could have been a reason for that. So I'm not one to judge. I'm sort of thinking, okay, well, all right, that's, I haven't spoken to Sandra in a while, actually. It would be good to catch up with her, but
Do you think she'll speak to you? Do you think, because you said you'd get gone into hiding or shit, because I haven't seen anything about her from her anywhere.
Yeah, she has. I mean, I've got her personal details, so there's always a chance. It's really conflicting because you only get parts of the story from everyone. But the one thing that has been really horrible is that people are taking chunks out of each other on Twitter. And I don't know if you've had a look, I can show you, but some of them are just, there's no need for it,
They've forgotten why they were doing what they're doing.
I think so, Dawn. Yeah, I think they have. So that's why when I thought, oh yeah, this pod's coming out, and it's kind of been sort of floating there the last few weeks, I've sort of been dipping my toe in, but I've realised that the magnitude of the stuff that's been reported, it's so big that I will have to put on a full wetsuit and dive in. I don't think this is one for skimming your toe in, because it's there are a lot of claims to be made, and the transcripts are getting put out like weekly now. So there's also a YouTube channel as well. I can't remember what it's called, but this guy's kind of looking over it as well. And he's sort of more on the side. He never comes out and says Luke is guilty, but I don't think he believes Luke is innocent. But what he is he's quite polite, and he doesn't jump down anyone's throats. You know, he'll sort of say, well, I respect that, but I think he only gives respect to the people that have been respectful to him. So some people have come at him full guns blazing, and of course you're going to retaliate. And I think that's why. But there has been some like doxing online. There's been some calls to personal mobile phones that shouldn't have happened, and it's getting quite messy behind the scenes. And it's such a shame, because I think it's kind of been lost on that community, which one of the members who was in that Luke is innocent kind of group, they likened it to a cult, which is obviously a really strong word. It's like, wow, okay, so that's a pretty bold statement. But I wasn't fully in it. I was always on the peripheral, and just kind of, I didn't want to get too far in, because I still don't know what I believe, truly. I still don't. But what I've said all along, and I still totally say, is that Luke, I don't think in my eyes got a fair trial. I think the media, as someone that works in the media as well, you know, I work in TV and podcasting, as someone that does work in the media, his rights were really, and I know people will say, what about Jodi's? But if he didn't kill Jodi, then we've got two victims on our hands. And and he was a child. So there needs to, be a bit more leeway. But
yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like, and nothing what I've read that's come out so far is so damning that I would straight away think, oh, absolutely guilty. There's nothing, it's not like that. There's just contradictions and little innuendo, insertions there, wrong words here and there. There's that kind of thing going on. The parka jacket, it wasn't a parka jacket, it was a green shirt. Just things like that. But still, nothing that I would say what it's done for me is just kind of damaged the credibility a wee bit. That's what it's done for me.
I think that's that's spot on. That's spot on. I mean, we'll know within weeks if he's going to be out. And if he is, then blimey, stuff is really going to kick off. It really is. I can't imagine that online community. There are people where their whole profile is like justice for Luke or free Luke Mitchell or whatever. So if that happens, if he comes out, then what happens then? And what if, you know, he doesn't want to meet them? He doesn't want to thank them for that, because he might just want to go into hiding. He might want to bugger off and live in New Zealand. He might want to do something completely different. I don't know, but it's going to be, I think people feel like they know him because they've looked at those clips of him, but you've got to remember he was a 14-year-old child then. And, you know, he's a mid-30s man now. This is over 20 years on, and I think it's going to be a very interesting time.